So on behalf of the Kenya ICT Action Network and other partners and collaborators, I wish to welcome you to the 2019 Kenya Internet Governance Forum. This is an annual forum that we hold to discuss ICT policy issues, ICT policy concerns, and then we look at how we are going to influence those issues and shape policy.
We started this journey in October 2008 at KICC, and since then we have more than 100 initiatives globally. They are called national and regional initiatives, but Kenya was a pioneer, and many people still look up to Kenya as a pioneer in this space. Some time back, all we were discussing was access-related issues, but we've moved beyond discussing access. There was a time when we had to discuss affordability of the internet. Now we are no longer talking about that. Now we are talking about privacy. Now we are talking about quality.
This year, the Kenya IGF had several components. We had the Kenya School of Internet Governance, where about 40 participants will graduate later today. We also launched a policy brief on over-the-top OTTs, policy brief, and we thought that that was very important because OTTs now are actually competing with ordinary telcos, and yet they are not regulated under the telco laws. We also have a youth IGF that's gonna be half a day. It's going on, and then the 60 children will join us in the afternoon to tell us what they have discussed and what are their IG issues. We also launched a tool together with our partner CIPESA on ICT accessibility indicators for people with disabilities. And this has been informed by the many conversations we've had that we need to start involving people with disabilities in the IGF. So let me just say, like they say on KQ, kwa niaba ya rubani wenyu, tunawakaribisha kusafiri nasi kwa siku ya leo. Tunatumaini tutakuwa na majadiliano mema siku ya leo. Asanteni kwa kuchagua Kenya IGF.
As the importance of the internet continues to increase, so is the need for better governance, structures, principles, and programs that will shape its use. And for us, this is the focus of our conversations today. Internet governance, as Grace said, requires a multi-stakeholder approach for it to succeed, which you can only do with support from all of us, including the government, private sector, civil society, regulators, and of course, us as a community. So when we come together, we believe that truly great things can happen. Our late CEO, Bob, truly believed this in his heart. He believed that without our business being a responsible participant in our community, we would not be able to deliver the solutions that would truly make an impact on people in this country. And we want to continue that vision. We want to be able to bring that vision he had for this country to life. I'm glad to see representatives from all the organizations we work with in this room, including KICTAnet, who remains a key stakeholder in the development of internet governance in Kenya.
Over the years, the journey of working towards improving internet governance in Kenya, the authority has participated in all the Kenya IGF forums, all of them. Okay. I commend the conveners and the wider internet technical community for keeping the national debate in internet governance public policy issues alive in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, the feedback that we get from these forums have been taken very seriously by the authority, and some of the ideas have expressed here have eventually evolved to be national projects that have successfully been implemented.
As Facebook, we are present and willing to engage with governments and policymakers and all stakeholders to be able to identify or together work on developing privacy and governance structures that are suitable for the market. And this is the reason why we're here to engage. It's the reason why we have an Africa Public Policy team made up of Africans.
the lawmaking process, unfortunately, is often very slow. Truth is, the private sector doesn't wait for the laws to be created; they just go, which then explains why Safaricom has absolutely more relevant economic data of different cross sections of Kenyan society than government has. Period. What they do with that data is what then the law will be trying to address.
Kenya, as much as we have a bicameral parliament, we also have governments, both national and county governments. Our counties' capability and capacity around data strong enough to understand or to articulate or handle data in the fourth industrial revolution, because that's our context. Is national government or the policies being enacted responsive to that? Are they third industrial revolution and not fourth industrial revolution? So I think for me, my sense is to answer those critical questions. And what we've been doing, I think, from our space is one, is we convene, connect, and catalyze. Because the data revolution really is within the private sector. The most valuable companies, I think Facebook is one of them here, would tell you that that how we understand data, or even how we want to think that we even own that data, is questioned every day. I think the basic principle is that data belongs to the individual.
Both the houses of parliament are actually doing a lot. So our bill is actually with one of the committees of the National Assembly, and then we have two other bills at different stages of reading. I think first reading for the government bill, and then I think second reading for the private members bill.
With regard to the data protection task force, it was commissioned by the minister, I think, after Senator's bill was, I think, making rounds in the Senate. But basically, the intention was to provide a framework for protecting citizen data. Also, the motivation was perhaps given a push by the enactment of GDPR. GDPR is the European Union data protection regulatory framework, which to a very large extent expects that European businesses should trade with businesses out of Europe that have certain protections.
It is a mess, it's rubbish, because really we should be able to harmonize and decide to give the country a bill or an act.
We actually were asked to harmonize, and we held a couple of meetings with the Senator Committee and with the need to harmonize, and I think we had gone to the extent of saying that as long as the Senate bill has this and these provisions, I mean, it really doesn't matter whether the bill comes from Senate or National Assembly.
I know a lot of you are waiting to hear, when do we have a data protection law? We are a bit behind in that sense. Our apologies, but we will definitely work to make sure that is done.
Do you think we are entering an era of overregulation, especially within the ICT sector?
There may be overregulation, yes, but it's not so much overregulation really from where I sit. As it is, this being a new area, it's carte blanche, there's nothing in place. I know there's a fear that so much is being done, therefore it might get there. But rest assured, I think the regulations have all been done in good faith to govern the way we do things, to bring sustainability to the way we do things, to bring, rule of law and order into things. Because again, you cannot have mayhem with these things.
In the first quarter of the year, we had around 11 million attacks targeting various institutions. So you can see that it's actually a 10% growth over a similar period last year. And this one will tell you that it is a concern and it's continued to grow. The nature of the cybercrime is that it's now is very organized. So a long time ago, we used to think of kids sitting in a basement trying to attack website, and I think a few movies are yet to catch on that. But the reality on the ground is that it has really metamorphosized in such a manner that people are well organized, they are able to plan, they take a lot of time to be able to understand the organization, whether it's a banking institution or whatever institution it is. They're able to understand and find out what are the weaknesses. How can we be able to penetrate that organization? Can we talk to an insider there?
As Africans, we are very friendly people, we are very open people. We share passwords, we share caps, we share everything. So we need to work on us. We need to work on, first of all, building a cybersecurity culture. We need to have consciousness about our information. We need to understand the importance of our information to ourselves as individuals and to every organization. Once we understand that, then we will be able to actually secure the information.
Because we are human beings, and human beings are the ones who create technology. Obviously, there will always be issues. There will always be mistakes in the development of technology. And those vulnerabilities which were behind, for example, WannaCry or NotPetya, which were these massive hacks, are real security issues. And they all start with a mistake that a developer made at some point in their coding or development of some software. Now what's happening is that those vulnerabilities are in some cases being weaponized or being used as capabilities by state actors like traditional weapons. And that's also a concern. So there needs to be more transparency around the use of vulnerabilities by state actors, because they can be used by malicious actors, including criminals. And that compromises all our safety and security. As technologists and device developers have been saying for many years, if you create a backdoor for one person, then you create a backdoor for someone else, i.e. a criminal. That's the way the internet works. And so we have to find other ways that will not compromise people's privacy and security to address issues related to crime.
Collaboration is key in any cyber incident management. Followed closely to collaboration is bringing what we call trust relationships, right? So if you build trust, and if you know the faces of the other person within the industry of which you are collaborating with in solving the cyber incidents, that's the number one thing. So you can actually run a SAT without even having a single tool.
When it comes to cybersecurity issues, the responsibility starts with you as an individual, from your computer to your phone, and then you cascade it to your neighbors, because as we've been told, the individual is the weakest link. Devices will always do what they are told.
3 things that industry needs to do. The first thing is we need to educate ourselves, 1. So let's take a proactive approach to learning about information security and how important it is. Number 2, organizations need to actually implement proper end-to-end cybersecurity programs with a complete cybersecurity strategy, cybersecurity frameworks, cybersecurity policies, because these help to build cybersecurity culture. I know we've talked about cybersecurity being an issue of trust. Yes, it's an issue of trust. But we also need to be willing to engage and collaborate with each other, because only then can we actually identify the cybersecurity risks and threats that affect us specifically as Africa.
This is the 3rd Youth IGF in Kenya. So when we began 2 years ago, we had a representation of one young person at the Kenya National IGF. Last year we brought about 12 young people also, and I'm glad to say this year we have about 50 young people participating in this year's National IGF. We have an emerging issue. A new emerging issue that in every school that we've gone to this particular term, the children are actually talking about it. And that issue is online gambling. Children from primary school, high school are betting, not knowing it is actually illegal.
The parents that are here, your child may be stealing your ID
and applying on these apps or signing up to these apps. And the most surprising thing was that parents who are allowing their children to actually bet, they are giving them their ID numbers to sign up for these apps and allowing them to bet. So yes, children are in fact betting and gambling online. There are many things we will recommend, but the first one was movement of billboards away from our schools. Number 2, the wordings on the billboards should be enlarged. The wordings that are giving the warning that betting is not for children under the age of 18. Number 3, it is holding of cyber cafes responsible if minors are found gambling in their cafes. Putting laws that holds parents liable for their children using their IDs or phones to bet, whether they know about it or not. They should still face consequences because, as law says, ignorance is no defense.
What I understand about the term child online safety, this is a protection of young people who are accessing the internet against harassment, bullies, insecurity, and bad posts, and making them aware of what is surrounding them while on internet. Child, as we know all that, child is a person who is under 18 years, and on the online, they are not safe. So for texting, it's just a request to the government, at least to come up with a specific group to educate the youth how their private parts are important and they should not expose them publicly.
Digital inclusion is involving of everyone in the ICT space. My recommendations on this is, my first point is teaching and understanding the importance of being digitally literate. This creates awareness on the importance of the internet. The Ministry of Education should add ICT and computer programs such as coding, and they should teach on how, teach youth how to code, how to use firewalls, and the importance of encryption. Because when, like he said, when people are hacked and they don't know how to encrypt their account, it's very depressing for those who are really they love their accounts. Okay, if my Instagram got hacked, I would go mad.
Data governance. Data governance is managing data or control of digital data. Social media platforms should have second security verifications. We are looking forward to a time when WhatsApp will ask somebody whether they want to join a group or not. Sindio, usiingize group na ujui ni nini.
Today we are sat here during this particular forum, but after the Youth IGF, we never get a follow-up. As in, for this particular forum, people will go to the Africa IGF. They leave behind these young people. You go for the global IGF, you still leave behind the young people. But you're still saying that you're mentoring young people when it comes to ICT. We need to carry them along.
Digital inclusion is empowering people to use ICTs. And when I say people, it means all. That is persons with disabilities, women and girls, youth and children, including people who are in rural areas and low-income areas of Kenya.
As Safaricom, we believe in the power of technology to transform lives. And in terms of getting this digital inclusion, some of the things we've done is, for instance, we have MTIBA, which is an app that you can be able to use to get health updates. We're also using DigiFarm to be able to connect farmers, and they can be able to learn about where they can get these implements and how to connect to markets and the likes. Beyond that, it's we've worked hand in hand with the CA in getting connectivity in some of the areas that are far-flung across the country. We've been in Turkana in Northeastern. We're among the biggest bidders when it comes to the USF fund usage and rolling out these sites.
When it comes to digital inclusion, more especially in Kenya, it does not exist. A friend of mine who is blind had to apply for his new passport. So of course, the first phase, he has to do it online. So he needs help to do it online because the website is not accessible for him. And so I was telling him, for me, I can do it online very comfortably, but to come to present my papers at Nyayo House, I have 12 steps that I have to battle with.
There's a huge barrier around, relevance of content and this, digital literacy and what we're calling more advanced digital skills. A large amount of the internet content globally is in the English language, which is, good for Kenya, with English being one of the official languages. But then when we get down to the second official language of Kenya, which is Kiswahili, considerably a lot less content on the internet in Kiswahili. And then we start getting down to the other mother tongues, and really we find virtually no content at all in the most commonly spoken languages of Kenya, other than English and Kiswahili. So if you're in rural areas, you might find that you might have very little content that is actually relevant to you.
Putting laptops, putting tablets in school simply isn't enough. That's not the answer. That's not how we get young people on a digital platform. That's not inclusivity by any means for a school in Lodwar. And so we can't copy and paste from a school in Manchester because we're not in Manchester. The infrastructure realities are different here. The schooling system is different here. The teacher digital literacy is different here. We've got to do our localized monitoring and evaluation and see what's on the ground, what works, what doesn't work.
Will you regard digital inclusion as a rights issue or a commerce issue?
To me, I think it is a rights issue, whereby we intend to take ICT services to the disadvantaged communities.
Whatever it is that we are doing, please think of that other person who is not able to do it as you can.
Let us simplify digital inclusion. Let us not talk about taking internet to people, but rather designing it with them, designing it for them, so that they are with them and for them and by them.
As we participate in the Internet Governance Forum again this year, it reminds us that we are part of the global arena. The reality around the ripple effect of what's happening in the global arena is particularly visible when we talk about the data governance issue. Suddenly, with the passing of the GDPR, a lot of other countries, ourselves included, suddenly got into top gear as far as data protection is concerned. So for us, that's a big area, and for a country in general.
We definitely do not need IBM to predict that the Huduma bill in this country is going to have a lot of human rights violations in it. It's very easy to predict that bad policies lead to discrimination. And it's really nice to label it as, digital inclusion. But specifically what we're talking about is digital discrimination. So basically, it's really important to look at some of the policies that are coming up in this country. And I'm not Kenyan, but a lot of us that are not Kenyans and that have really horrible telecom sector would look up to you guys and say, the direction that a lot of African countries need to go is in the direction of Kenya.
You have this thing of benchmarking. What are you benchmarking? So can I ask a question? What was Safaricom benchmarking against when they came up with M-Pesa? What were they benchmarking against? There are certain things, yes, we can learn. Like, people are coming to us to learn about mobile money. Yeah? So let's sort of unclog ourselves around some of these things and pick and choose. We don't need to just, copy everything because it's been done by a Muzungu, with all due respect.
I was there in the 90s when we were talking about the internet. And the people used to say, you must have been there. People, even Moi had that and they said, we ban computers in government offices because they are going to take jobs. Do we have secretaries or we don't? We still have secretaries. We are now doing a lot more with computers. This is exactly the same, that until we understand what these new technologies will do to us. AI was created for Africa, for Africans, so that we understand precisely what someone is talking about, translate it in a way that people can understand. One of the recommendations we have is that we need, and this is what we were told by the minister, we come out, explain fully what it is we can do to create jobs from AI. You know, people are thinking it's going to displace us. We can use blockchain, artificial intelligence to destroy corruption. Spain was ranked among the lowest, the most corrupt countries in EU. What did they do? Blockchain, AI. Now they have traceability. Everybody knows who moved money from A to B, and they are able to explain. They have begun to improve in their ranking.
We need to have a very serious conversation as what are we doing to create jobs out of these emerging technologies, and how are they being actioned, and what are the action points. The other challenge I'm going to give to KICTAnet is that we must move out of Nairobi. Nairobi is not Kenya, and Kenya is not Nairobi. I'd like to see these conversations happening in the 47 counties. But beyond that, I would actually like to see us with an action plan of exactly what it is and how we're rolling out opportunities for young people with respect to within the emerging technologies, how we're making them future ready and giving them the future skills that they need to get into the future of work.
We should leave no one behind. It is not easy to do, but there are some steps which we can already begin to take in order to improve access and affordability for those that are not able to amply afford it at the moment. The Communications Authority in this country can do more. The Universal Service Fund can do more in terms of improving access, for instance, for underserved areas, which the Service Fund is doing at the moment, but also for underserved communities, such as persons with disabilities and women. Government should be spearheading this. Government should be also on the case of other private companies that offer public services to be able to offer accessible services.
For the past 3 days, from 29th of July till yesterday, we had the Kenya School of Internet Governance, 4th edition. The cohort of fellows was really awesome, quite well versed with their domains and experiences, and they were very open and they shared a lot. So I'm going to call upon some of the KICTAnet trustees to help with issuing certificates.
I just want to thank you for honoring the invitation, for participating in the lively discussions and the debates. And I hope that next year you will also participate in the planning.